Hello and welcome to this exploring session, and today we are continuing our look at Edward the First by George Peele. We've got 5 scenes through the play so far. They're quite long scenes, so we're about a third, in fact slightly above a third of the way through the text, and we're going to be galloping through even more text today at a rate of knots. The stories so far, go and watch the previous video. That would be really, really helpful. Broadly speaking, the king's come back from the Holy Land, and he did a lot of killing there. He came back with a lot of maimed soldiers, we noticed, of which there was a lot of poor relief for. And but there's all sorts of problems happening within his realm, with people rebelling and things happening all over the shop, which lead to complicated prisoner exchanges and questions of who on earth is Elinor. Answers on a postcard. We're going to rattle through the next half dozen scenes or so and see where we get with this wonderful room of people who are here to try and edify a text that has many textual problems. So in no particular order, reading today Queen Elinor, and the other Elinor is...
Hello there, my royal subjects. My name is Sascha Cooper, and I'm a professional actress from Brighton in the UK.
Joining us as a Gloucester and farmer today is...
Hi, I'm Steve Longstaffe. I'm a scholar of early modern drama based in Lancaster in the UK.
Today reading Longshanks, Edward himself is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian. I'm in London.
And reading Katherina Spain and Balliol is...
Hello, I'm Sarah. I'm an actor, writer and director, and yesterday I had to apologise to the Welsh, and today I'd like to apologise in advance even more sincerely to the Scottish.
And reading today Mortimer is...
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk in the UK.
And reading Meredith, David and the Novice today is...
Lois Potter. I'm in London, retired academic.
Reading Lluellen and the Mantle Barons is...
I'm Amisu, and I'm also living in Romford.
And reading the Friar, Sussex and the Mayoress today is...
My name is Alexandra, and I must confess I haven't had the chance to see the first part of this story, so I'm very excited, but also entirely clueless.
Excellent. That's how we like our witnesses to be. And reading today, potentially the Pedler, but also Lancaster or Edmund is...
Hello, I'm Dan. I'm an actor in Montpellier, France.
And joining us from the West Coast, reading Joan and Versses, welcome to...
Hi, I'm Lynn Freitas. I'm a writing teacher and early modern drama enthusiast in the Northwest United States.
Excellent. And that is our team today, unless I've missed anyone. Wave if I have. Has been known. I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be attempting to guide us through the stage directions and various other things. And we're going to go into what is scene 6 with this stage direction, which very much feels, I think, the influence of Peele's writing of civic pageantry. So enter Jack and the Harper getting a standing against the Queen Comes In. The trumpets sound Queen Elinor in her litter, borne by 4 Negro Moors, attended on by the Earl of Gloucester and her 4 footmen, one having set a ladder to the side of the litter, descendeth, and her daughter followeth.
Give me my pantoblis. Fie, this hot weather, how it makes me sweat. Hey, oh, my heart. Oh, I am passing faint. Give me my fan, that I may cool my face. Oh, cold. Take my mask, but see you romp or not, this wind and dust, see how it smoulders me. Some drink, good Gloucester, or die for drink. Ah, Ned, thou hast forgot thy Nell, I see, that she is thus enforced to follow thee.
This air's 'tis temperature, and please your majesty, noisome, through mountains vapours send thick mist. Unpleasant needs must be to you and your company. That never was wont to take the air till Flora have perfumed the earth with sweets, with lilies, roses, mints, and
Oh, I tell thee, the ground is all too base for Elinor to honour with her steps, whose foot-pace when she progressed in the street of Acon and the fair Jerusalem was naught but costly arras points, fair island tapestry and azured silk, my milk-white steed treading on cloth of ray, and trampling proudly underneath the feet choice of our English woolen drapery. This clime o'erlowering with congealed clouds that takes their swelling from the marish soil, fraught with infectious fogs and rusty damps, is far unworthy to be once embalmed with redolence of this refreshing breath that sweetens where it lights as to the flames and holy fires of Vestas' sacrifice. Spring!
Whose pleasant fields new planted with makes Temesis to mount above the banks and like a wanton wallowing up and down on floors, beds, and napes silver down.
and Wales for me, madam, while you are here. No climate good unless your grace. Would Wales had aught could please you half so well, or in any precious thing in Gloucester's gift, whereof your ladyship would challenge me.
Well said, my lord. 'Tis as my mother says, you men have learned to woo 1,000 ways.
Oh, madam, had I learned against my need of all those ways to woo one way to speed, my coming then had been my fortune's guide.
Faith, Joan, I think thou must be Gloucester's bride. Good Earl, how near he steps unto her side. So soon this eye these younglings had espied. I'll tell thee, girl, when I was fair and young, I found such honey in sweet Edward's tongue, as I could never spend one idle walk, but Ned and I would piece it out with talk. So you, my lord, when you have got your Joan, no matter, let Queen Mother be alone. Old Nell is mother now, and grandmother May, the greenest grass doth droop and turn to hay. Woo one, kind clerk, good Gloucester, love thy Joan, her heart is thine, her eyes is not her own.
This comfort, madam, that your grace doth give, binds me in double duty whilst I live. Would God King Edward see and say no less?
Gloucester, I warrant thee upon my life, my king vouchsafes his daughter for thy wife. Sweet Ned have not forgot since he did woo the gall of love and all that longs thereto.
Why was your grace so coy, so kind?
Kind Gloucester, so methinks indeed. It seems he loves his wife no more than needs, that sends for us in all the speedy haste, knowing his queen to be so great with child, and make me leave my princely pleasant seats to come into his ruder part of Wales.
His Highness hath some secret reason why he wisheth you to move from England's pleasant courts. The Welshmen have of long time suitors been, but when the war of rebels sought an end, none might be prince and ruler over them but such a one as was their countryman, which sure I think his grace hath.
There, so then it is King Edward's policy to have his son, forsooth son if it be, a Welshman, well Welshman it liketh me. And here he comes.
Enter Edward Longshanks and his lords, to the Queen and her footman.
Nell, welcome into Wales. How fares my Elinor?
Nay, worse, beshrew their hearts 'tis long on.
Hearts, sweet Nell, shrew no hearts, where such sweet saints do dwell.
And
Nay
he
then.
holds her hand fast.
Nay then, I see I have my dream. I pray let her go. You will not, will you, whether I will or no? You are disposed to move me.
Say anything but so. Once, Nell, thou gavest me this.
Oh, I pray let go. Ye are disposed, I think.
Aye, madam, very well.
Let go and be naught, I say.
What ails my Nell?
Ay me, what sudden fits is this I prove? What grief, what pinching pain, like young men's love, that makes me madding run thus to and fro?
What melancholy, Nell?
My lord, pray let me go. Give me sweet water. Oh, fie, how hot it is.
If these be the fits,
Joan, ask thy beauteous mistress how she doth.
How fares your majesty?
Joan, aggrieved at the heart and angered worse, because I came not right in. I think the king comes purposely to spite me. My finger itched till I have had my will. Proud Edward, call and thy Elinor be still. It will not be, nor rest I anywhere till I have set it soundly on his ear.
Is that the matter? Let me alone then.
Oh, fie, how I fret with grief.
Come hither, Joan. Know'st thou what ails my queen?
Not I, my lord. She longs, I think, to give your grace a box of the ear.
Oh, nay, wench, if that be as we'll hear it well. Look, what, all a mort? How doth my dainty Nell? Look up, sweet love. Unkind, not kiss me once? That may not be.
My lord, I think you do it for the nonce.
Sweetheart, one kiss.
For God's sake, let me go.
Oh, sweetheart, a kiss.
What? Whether I will or no, you will not leave? Let be, I say.
I must be better chid.
No will. Take that then, lusty lord, sir. Leave when you are bid.
Why, so this char's charred.
but one by the root.
No force, no harm.
No harm that doth my Elinor any good. Learn, lords, 'gainst stupid married men, to bow to women's yoke. And sturdy though you be, you may not stir for every stroke. Now, my sweet Nell, how doth my queen?
She vaunts that mighty England hath felt her fist, taken a blow basely at Elinor's hand, and vaunt she may good leave, being cursed and coy. Lack nothing, Nell, whilst thou hast brought thy lord a lovely boy. Oh, Venation, I am sick. Good Katherina, I pray thee, bear hand.
This sickness, I hope, will bring King Edward a jolly boy.
And Catherine, who brings me that news, shall not go empty-handed.
And the scene ends. Okay, lots of things to discuss here. Thoughts on Queen Elinor and the opening section. What's going on with her there? Answers on a postcard. Wave at me for if you want to come in. Sascha first. You were herself, so opinions on her.
Can I just say, what an obstropulous brat she is? I mean, my goodness me, if it's not about the weather, it's how everything is not to her taste. She's not happy. And, you know, the more she goes on in the scene, you know, it's, you know, just from certain things, she's just kind of, oh, how can I put it? You know, she's like she's going from one extreme to the other. She wants attention, then she doesn't want attention, especially from our Edward here. You know, he's obviously come back from the wars and or something from what happened earlier, and you know he's obviously clearly trying to connect with her. She's not having any of it, but it's like a whole thing of a baby throwing her toys out the pram. It's like they want to have that attention, but then at the same time, as soon as they get it, they don't want it really.
Sarah, thoughts?
I mean, she's a monster, but to be fair to her, she is heavily pregnant.
Yes, of course.
And it's a very hot day. I mean, you know, just from hanging out with my mates who have kids, once they're at that stage of their pregnancy, it's like they don't know what to do with themselves. It's like, oh, where shall I sit? No, I need to stand. Oh my God, I'm too hot. I'm too cold. I mean,
And then Edward turns up and says, "Give us a kiss." And it's
yeah,
sort of going,
I know.
read the room. Read the room.
Yes, I feel he kind of doesn't know what's good for him there. Really, he needs to just kind of. Yeah.
Let's just face it. This is hormonal throwing toys out the pram. Let's put it that way.
Stephen, I saw a hand.
I'm just going to make that point. I mean, I think it's nicely ambiguous, isn't it? Because she may actually be like that. We don't know.
That's true.
So I think it's an interesting kind of ambiguity at this point in the play. It's so long since I've read it, I can't really remember how it goes. But I have a feeling that that's an interesting ambiguity in the light of the play.
Yes, Sarah.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I was here yesterday, and personally, I think she clearly is like that.
Yeah,
but
we do.
If you're already like that, and you're then, I don't know, nearly 9 months pregnant on a hot day, it's just going to amplify and intensify everything, isn't it? So.
Yeah.
And
it is the fact that she's coming in some state. I mean, I mentioned civic pageantry earlier. You know, with the litter borne by 4 Negro Moors. I mean, you know, in a lot of civic pageantry, you do have people of colour as part of the pageantry, and that's something that Peele writes. It's interesting question whether this is actually how it was staged, or whether this is a projection of how they would like this to have been staged. Because it seems so. This production seems so big and expansive in terms of practicalities that there's elements going, I'm not quite sure how much of this actually ever happened, and how much of this is projection of how much someone who would think on a large scale and use different people in different ways throughout. Additional thoughts, Alan, and then Helen.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is of a piece with her performance in the first section we did yesterday. She obviously is the one who wears the trousers and considers that is her divine right so to do. And as my late ex-mother-in-law used to say, she should have had the back of her legs slapped as a kid.
Helen.
Yes, while not advocating assaults on children. I would also point out that she's in Wales, and it isn't the Wales that we know. Wales was then a place rather short on amenities.
True.
And she doesn't like it.
No.
I think, in fact, that Edward, I mean, obviously one is always prejudiced because you're reading it. I think Edward, having been told she wants to give you a blow on the ear, says, all right, if it'll make her happy. And then he starts the teasing her in order to provoke it, and then takes it. Lèse majesté or no.
So he's a masochist as well.
No, I think he loves her. I really do.
I think he does. Yes, I think it's one of the few elements that seems relatively clear from his character, with lacking an interior life from our first section when we looked at it.
Yeah.
I think he does have good intentions, though, because it's clear he, just to follow on there, he does love her. But if he's prepared to go through that hell that she throws at him, it just goes to show how heavily he is into her, if we want to put it in a modern phrasing context there. But he adores her, clearly. But he just, bless him, he just doesn't know when he's stepped into hot water, I don't think. Especially if you're going to have that kind of abuse thrown at you, so to speak.
Lois.
Well, this is the sort of thing about women's longings, isn't it? I mean, women were supposed to long to eat charcoal and all sorts of crazy things, and he's just lucky that all she wants to do is slap him. And I take it is an example of something which we've seen before and we'll see again. Edward actually managing her. The whole thing is also, I think, kind of, aren't women delightfully dotty, and especially when they're pregnant? Ho ho.
Any new additional thoughts, Stephen?
Is it also something to do with good fellowship, in the sense that there's a kind of persistent fantasy of the king, this medieval king, being a good fellow, who, if you could only meet him, would be kind of, tolerant and cheerful. But here it's played out in a slightly, he's not meeting a kind of cottager in the woods or something, which is how it often goes. But it's how he's, a very gendered form of that, which is how he's responding to Elinor.
Any additional thoughts before we move forward? We appear to have lost our friar. There seem to be a lot of connectivity problems with Alexandra, so I guess going to vaguely talk for a few seconds while I try and figure out who can do that for the next scene. And I am going to say, Sarah, I think you can be stand-in Friar for the moment. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay. Is this the Friar from yesterday?
It is indeed, same Friar. And Sascha is rejoining us as a different Elinor. It's a different Elinor. Unless Alexandra comes back online, we'll proceed as thusly, and we may dance around a bit with this. So, scene 7, enter Mortimer, Lluellen, and Meredith.
Farewell, Lluellen, with thy loving Nell.
Exit Mortimer.
Good and mercy, Mortimer, and so farewell.
Farewell and be hanged, half Sinon's serpent's brood.
Good word, Sir Rice. Wrongs have best remedy. So taken with time, patience, and policy. But where is the friar who can tell?
And just at that moment, Alexandra has reappeared in the room. Is Alexandra able to take up the mantle of the friar who enters now?
No, I'm very sorry. Because Alexandra's entire computer has just reset, so she hasn't got the script. I do apologize.
Okay, stand in Friar for the moment, Sarah. Enter Friar.
That can I master very well, and say ye faith, what hath befell? Must we at once to heaven or hell?
To heaven, Friar. Friar, no fie. Such heavy souls mount not so high.
And the Friar lies down.
Then, Friar, lie thee down and die. And if any ask the reason why, answer and say thou canst not tell, unless because thou must to hell. No, Friar, because thou didst rebel, gentle Sir Rice, ring out thy knell.
In magic, toll thy passing bell. So there lies the straw, and now to the law. Masters and friends, naked came we into the world. Naked are we turned out of the good towns into the wilderness. Let me see. Mass, methinks we are a handsome commonwealth, a handful of good fellows, set a sunning to dog on our own discretion. What say you, sir? We are enough to keep a passage. Will you be ruled by me? We'll get the next day from Brecknock, the book of Robin Hood, the friar he shall instruct us in his cause, and we'll even hear fair and well, since the king hath put us amongst the discarding cards, and as it were, turned us with juices and trays out of the deck, every man taking standing on Manic Deny, and wander like irregulars up and down the wilderness. Are we master of this room? Are we Robin Hood that once, cousin Rice, thou shalt be Little John, and here's Friar David, as fit as a die for Friar Tuck? Now, my sweet Nell, if you will make up the mess with a good heart for Maid Marian, and do well with the women under the greenwood trees, with as good a will as in the good towns, why, plena est curia.
My sweetest love, and this my infract fortune could never vaunt her sovereignty. And shouldst thou pass the ford of Phleggeton, or with Leander win the Hellespont in deserts, or Niphorus never dwell, or build thy bower on Aetna's fiery tops, thy Nell would follow thee and keep with thee. Thy Nell would feed with thee and sleep with thee.
O Cupido quantas quantas?
Bravely resolute, madam. And then what rests, my Lord Robin? But we will live and die together like Camber Britons. Robin Hood, Little John, Friar Tuck, and Maid Marian.
There rests nothing now, cousin, but that I sold my chain to set us all in green, and we all play the pioneers to make us a cave and cabin for all weathers.
Ah, my sweet Lluellen, through this sweet beguile, patience doth comfort me by outsuffering all.
Now, Manach deny, I hold thee a penny. Thou shalt have neither sheep nor goat, but Friar David will fleece his coat. Where never Jack, my novice jet? All is fish with him that comes to net. David, this year thou payest no debt.
And they exit and then enter Mortimer alone.
Why, Friar, it's so plain indeed. Lluellen, art thou flatly so resolute to roist it out and roust so near the king? What, shall we have a passage kept in Wales for men-at-arms and knights adventurous? By cocks a rice, I see no reason why. Young Mortimer should make one among and play his part on Manach Denai here, for love of his beloved Elinor. His Elinor, her, where she is, I wot, the bitter northern wind upon the plains, the damps that rise from out the queechy plots, nor influence of contagious air should touch, but she should court yet with the proudest dames, rich in attire and sumptuous in her fare, and take her ease in beds of safest down. Why, Mortimer, may not thy offers move, and win sweet Elinor from Llewellyn's love? By pleasant gold and gentle eloquence, have chastened nymphs, the fairest dames, and vaunts of words, delights of worth and ease, have made none to yield to Llewellyn, being set to see the last of desperate chance. Why should so fair a star stand in a veil, and not be seen to sparkle in the sky? It is enough Jove change his glittering robes to see Menamity and the flies. Masters, have after gentle Robin Hood, you are not so well accompanied, I hope. But if a potter come to play his part, you'll give him stripes, or welcome good or worse. Go, Mortimer, and make their love holidays. The king will take a common excuse of thee. And who hath more men to attend than Mortimer?
And exit Mortimer, who, he loves her. Isn't it sad? It's quite a lovely speech, actually, bits of that. Really like that. So, yeah, they're all going to play dress up. It's a bit of cosplay going on. Why?
Because.
No, they're going to have they're going to become guerrilla warfare.
Oh.
They refer a lot to Robin Hood and Maid Marian in this, so I'm assuming a lot of this is giving back to those that need it. And especially as I noticed Lluellen and Elinor then quickly switched from verse into prose. So I'm assuming that when something happens like that, it's more of a it's not, if I remember correctly, if people use mostly verse, it's actually more structured, it's more dramatic. But when you go into the prose side of things, I mean, I don't know what it's like in everybody else's versions, but in the version I've got here, Lluellen and Elinor go straight from verse into prose. So I'm assuming that there's much more of it. It's still quite a dramatic thing, but it's very intimate. It's not for show, if that makes sense. Because it's the intention's very different. It's not like Queen Eleanor earlier. This is what I would call a more stable type of relationship. I mean, she does say, "Oh, I'll follow you anywhere. I'll sleep with you anywhere." She loves him. He clearly loves her again. But they want to give back. They're giving back to those that need it.
I see lots of hands. Helen.
I think there should be a warning here that when I got the text, a lot of this was in verse that made no sense at all. And I have rather arbitrarily prosed some of it because I couldn't make it make reasonable, even possible verse. But I may have got it very, very wrong. That isn't to say that I don't think that the Lluellen-Elinor relationship isn't absolutely beautiful and solid. I mean, I think you're totally right in your conclusions. I just think some of your underlying premises may be a little more shaky than you have been led to believe.
Lynn.
I was actually going to ask about the versification, and I don't know, Stephen, you might be able to help with this, because I did read the first part of this, so I was kind of up to speed on the plot, and I noticed that there's this very clear signaling of it's a comic scene because we have this shorter but-ump verse line and it's rhyming. So the friar and his wench have this funny stuff, and the verse form is different. It's rhymed and it's a shorter line. And the iambic pentameter is for more serious stuff. I have heard it argued, I've read this argument, that the blank verse is actually the more sincere form. But it's literally from the heart, and that you can never tell a character talking in prose. But I think what Sascha is saying makes more sense, is that when they put aside the verse, when they start talking in prose, that's in this author's code, that's from the heart.
Lois.
Yeah, it's there's this funny bit that I just read where he goes into Robin Hood, Little John, Friar Tuck made merry, and where we go into rhyme, which is sort of like some of the earlier scenes involving the friar, where they were speaking in rhyme and, you know, doggerel and different verse forms. And I think what's happening here is we're going into the world of the ballads, and especially the Robin Hood ballads. I mean, the bit that fascinates me is that Lluellen says they're going to get the book of Robin Hood, and the friar, who may be the only one in this crowd who can read, is going to kind of tell them what to do. They're going to, they know that Robin Hood and Maid Marian exist as characters, but they don't really know what their plot is, and they're somehow going to be acting it out. It's an extraordinary situation.
Stephen.
Well, just to add to that as well, you know, Robin Hood and Maid Marian games are part of a sort of festive drama tradition.
Yeah.
That we hear references to a lot. So it's about a kind of a mood, I think, as well. And
yes.
the verse forms a part of that.
Yes, we've touched upon on the podcast the short Robin Hood plays that we've got. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with this Potter in comparison with some stuff we've already done. I'm going to move us forward at this stage, however, with cosplay in place. Mortimer's long speech there seems very much to break up the action for the people who've just come off stage to come straight back on again. And so we go into what is scene 8. Hopefully Alexandra is back with us as the friar, which would be fabulous. Hello, Sarah.
Sorry, I should have asked this earlier. Can I just check something before we press on? Mortimer, he's basically stalking them, isn't he? Nobody knows he's there.
In the scene that's about to what the scene that they were just in? Yes,
I mean, because he appears on his own, and it's like he's going to appear as this Potter. I mean, he's not meant to be there, is he? He's just basically he's stalking Elinor.
From his exit in the last scene, he was there. He said goodbye to them. He's now in disguise as the Potter.
Right. Okay.
From now on. So in this scene coming up, every line for the Potter is Mortimer in disguise. Okay. So this return here is his declaration of intent to be in disguise, so that we know he is. So now, yes, there is a bit of a stalkerish vibe going on. We shall see. We shall see how it pans out. Who knows? So scene 8. Enter Lluellen, Meredith, Friar, Elinor, and their train. They are all clad in green, etc., singing, etc., blithe and bonny. That's a song for us to look into. The song ended, Lluellen speaketh.
Why so? I see my mates of old. All were not lies that Bedlams told, of Robin Hood and Little John, Friar Tuck and Maid Marian.
Aye, forsooth, master.
How well I couched in forest green, frolic and lively with autumn team, and spent their day in gaming glee, Lluellen do seek, for please thee. Nor thou thy foot be out of town, let thine look black on Edward's crown. Nor think this green is not so gay, as was the gold rich of bold and rich array. And if sweet Nell, my Marion, trust me as I am a gentleman, thou art as fine in this attire, as fine and fit to my desire. As when of Leicester's hall and bower, thou wert the rose and sweetest flower. How sayest thou, Friar, say I well, for anything becomes my Nell.
Never made man of a woman born a bullock's tail a blowing horn, nor can an ass's hide disguise a lion if he ramp and rise.
My lord, the friar is wondrous wise.
Believe him, for he tells no lies, but what doth little John devise?
That Robin Hood beware of spies. An aged saying and a true, black will take no other hue. He that of old hath been thy foe will die, but will continue so.
Oh, masters, whither shall we? Doth any living creature know?
Rise, and I will walk around, Friar, see about the ground.
And somewhere around here, enter Mortimer.
And spoil what praise to be found. My love I leave with you in trust, because I know thy dealing just. Come, Potter, come and welcome too. Fare as we fare, and do as we do.
And
Nell.
Exit Lluellen and Meredith.
Nell, adieu. We go for news. A little serves the friar's lust, when nolens volens, fast I must. Master at all that you refuse.
Such a Potter would I choose, when I mean to blind excuse. While Robin walk with little John, the friar will take his Marion, so will the Potter if he can. Muted.
Yes, you're muted.
Sorry, and again. Now, friar, seeth your lord is gone, and you and I are left alone. What can the friar do or say to pass the weary time away? Weary, God wot, poor wench to thee, that never thought these days to see.
Break heart and split mine eyes in twain. Never let me hear those words again.
What can the friar do or say to pass the weary time away? More dare I do than he dare say, because he doubts to have a way.
Do somewhat, friar, say or sing, to pass the weary time away. More dare I do than he dares. No, one my doing. Do somewhat, friar, say or sing, that may to sorrow's solace spring, and I meanwhile will garlands make.
O Mortimer, were it for thy sake, the garland were the happiest stake that ere this hand unhappy drew.
Mistress, shall I tell you true? I have a sort, I learned it long ago. I wot not whether you'll like it well or ill. 'Tis short and sweet, but somewhat broad before. Once let me sing it, and I ask no more.
What, friar, were you so indeed? Agrees it somewhat with your need?
Why, mistress, shall I sing my creed?
That's fitter of the two at need.
O wench, how mayst thou hope to speed?
Oh, mistress, out it goes. Look what comes next, the friar throws.
The friar sits along and sings. We have no song.
Such a sitting whoever saw, an equal's bird of a jackdaw?
So, sir, is this all?
Sweetheart, here's no more.
How now, good fellow, more indeed, by one then was before.
How now, the devil instead of a ditty?
Friar, a ditty come late from the city, to ask some pity of this lass so pretty. Some pity, sweet mistress, I pray you.
How now, friar? Where are we now, and you play not the man?
Friend, copes, mate, you that come late from the city, to ask some pity of this lass so pretty, in likeness of a doleful ditty, hang me if I do not pay ye.
O friar, you grow choleric, well yole, have no man to court your mizzlers but yourself. On my word, I'll take you down a bottom hole.
You talk, child.
And potentially having a bit of a fight here, enter Lluellen and Meredith.
He's well, Potter. You fight in a good quarrel.
Yes, this blade will hold. Let me see then, Friar.
Mine's for mine own turn, I warrant. Give him his tools. Rise and let's do it. But no change, and if you love me. I scorn the odds, I can tell you. See fair play, and you be gentlemen.
Marry shall be fair, let us see. Be there staves of a length good, so now let us deem of the matter. Friar and Potter without more clatter. I have cast your water and see as deep into your desire as he that had dined every day into your bosom. O Friar, will nothing serve your turn but larks? Are such five birds for such coarse clerks? None but my marrying can serve your turn.
Cast water, for the house will burn.
Oh. Frail. Well, when the sign is in the tail, mighty is love and doth prevail.
Therefore, Friar, shalt thou not fail, but mightily your foe assail, and thrash his Potter with thy flail. And Potter never rave nor rail, nor ask questions what I aim. But take this tool and do not quail, but thrash this Friar's russet coat.
And they take the flails.
And make him sing a dastard's note, and cry, Peccavi miserere, David, in amor amavi, go to.
Strike, strike.
Strike, Potter! Be thou thief or loath, and if you'll not strike, I'll strike for both.
And the Potter strikes, or Mortimer.
He must needs go
sorry,
that the devil drives.
That must be my line, mustn't it?
That's what I was wondering about.
He must go that the devil drives, then Friar, beware of other men's wives.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, good. Go for it.
I wish, Master Proud Potter, the devil have my soul, but I'll make my flail circumscribe your no.
Right so, now it cottons, now the game begins. One knave currieth another for his sins.
And the Friar kneels.
Oh, Master, shorten my offences in mine eyes. If this crucifix do not suffice, send me to heaven in a hempen sacrifice.
Oh, masters, masters, let this be warning. The Friar hath infected me with his learning.
Villains, do not touch the forbidden hair now to delude or to dishonour me.
Oh, Master, que negata sunt, grata sunt.
Rise every day, and thus shall it be. We'll have a thrashing set among the friars, and he that of these challengers lays on slowest load, be thou at hand, Rice, to gore him with thy goad.
Ah, Potter, Potter, the Friar may rue that ever this day this our quarrel he knew. My pate addle, mine arms black and blue.
Our Friar, who may his fate's forces eschew, I think, Friar, you are prettily schooled.
And I think the Potter is handsomely cooled.
And they exit, leaving Mortimer.
No, Mortimer here, that eternal fire that burns and flames with brands of hot desire. Why, Mortimer, why dost thou not discover thyself her knight, a liegeman, and her lover?
And they exit, and yes, the moment anyone goes into Robin Hood mode, we discover what Robin Hood mode basically means, which is it's a setup for a fight. That's basically what all Robin Hood plays are for. That's all they're interested in, because then you get to have a nice fun fight and then hand the bucket round to collect money. Within the context of this play, there is a pretext. There's some lovely, fun, sort of short verse lines doing really sort of fun little stuff. But yeah, I'm not even sure I know or care why the fight started. It just did, so it's fine. But people, I'm sure other people will have found motivations and things that I missed. Lois first.
Yeah, well, it's terribly confusing, but they keep talking as if the friar had been making advances to Elinor, and he certainly talks as if he'd like to, and he's pretty randy, and yet there's nothing that really indicates that. On the other hand, Mortimer arrives, and then they get into a fight, which seems to be sort of about that. There's clearly a lot going on that isn't really in the lines.
Mm. Yes, if we think the friar is permanently horny, then that sort of fits. That fits a certain level of expectation from friars within this. And if he's pretending to be Friar Tuck, even more so, frankly. Other thoughts?
I'm still slightly baffled by the potter that Mortimer sees that gives him the idea of being a potter. Because unless he actually grabs him in the bushes, kills him, strips him, and comes on in his clothes, I don't know. I mean, he just doesn't have time. I'm not entirely sure what a potter looks like. I mean, presumably he's got a leather apron with clay on it. But I don't know.
Well, the thing is, he knows there's going to be a potter because he stated there was one earlier. That there's going or there's an intent. So I don't know if he is literally grabbing that poor sucker. Though it would be good comedy business. I see lots and lots of hands. I saw Stephen earlier. Did you want to jump in before I go to the others?
Yeah, well, it might depend on the song that the friar sings. Picking up on the earlier point, he says, "Here's my creed." We don't know the words of the song, but we can imagine the kind of song they might choose to support the point.
Oh, right, yes, in terms of setting up general, yes, there. Lois, and then Alan, then Alexandra, lots of hands, yes. Lois first.
Well, the other odd thing is that at one point, I think Lluellen or somebody says, "Come, Potter," and there seems to be a Potter around somewhere. I thought at that point they must have seen Mortimer, but it seems to be somebody else that they're asking to go with them. It's really odd, that one mention.
Yeah.
And as far as what a Potter looked like, I imagine he's just carrying a couple of pots, maybe. I mean, the whole ballad of Robin Hood and the Potter seems to involve, Robin Hood taking over the role and selling pots cheaply and getting to know the sheriff's wife through it.
And in the short folk play, it's a protection racket. He just goes out and destroys the poor bugger's pots. Whoops! There goes another. And you're going to pay me any money now? No. Okay. Next, there goes another pot. Then a fight happens. Alan.
I was going to refer to the fact that we did record the short Robin Hood and the Potter play. So I think it's just reusing an existing known theme, which probably would have been familiar to many in the audience. And a Potter would have been probably a relatively straightforward disguise to adopt. As you say, it would be a smock or apron that was covered in clay.
Alexandra, I saw a hand.
Yeah, but it wasn't important, so I'm happy to move on.
Okay. I mean, this scene, is full of those little minor confusions that we've had throughout, of people saying they're going to go to their coronation having just left the coronation and things like that. So they're interesting minor inconsistencies that are could just be straightforward typos or early modern typos that creep in, or something more apt. I see lots of hands going up at that random speculation there. Lois first.
Well, again, it's just trying to imagine what's happening, but both the Mortimer and the Friar seem to be well and truly beaten up by the end of this. That might just be from their fight, but there's also this odd bit where it seems to be some kind of game with rules, and I think it's a bit like the end of one of the Robin Hood ballads. I think it's the one where the king comes to the greenwood, and there's the idea that each one gets to take the other a buffet and see how hard they can hit, because that seems to be what they're doing. I mean, first one hits the other, and then the other one gets to hit. I mean, that might be what's going on anyway. I mean, so much of this, you really do have to try to visualize it.
Helen.
One of the things that I think is totally against the chaos is the way when you've got the Friar and Elinor talking and Mortimer is unseen by them. They are picking up each other's rhymes in a very, very tight and neat way. So that, and Mortimer is part of it. Elinor says, and I meanwhile will garlands make, and Mortimer says, O Mortimer, were it for thy sake. And then his speech ends, that ever this hand unhappy drew. And the friar, who can't hear Mortimer, says, Mistress, shall I tell you true?
Mm,
I mean, it's very tightly done.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, we need to move on. So we have a short scene and then a long scene. So I'll run them into each other unless something exciting jumps out at me. So what's scene 9? Enter John Balliol, King of Scots, with his train and Versses.
Lords of Albana and my peers in France, since Balliol is invested in his rights and wears the royal Scottish diadem, time is to rouse him that the word may what? Scotland disdains to carry England's yoke. Therefore, my friends, let's put in readiness. Why slack we time to greet the English king with message to let him know our minds? Lord Versses, though thy faith and oath be ta'en to follow Balliol's arms for Scotland's right, yet is thy heart to England's honour knit. Therefore, in spite of England and thyself, bear thou defiance proudly to thy king. Tell him Albania finds heart and hope to shake off England's tyranny betime, to rescue Scotland's honour with his sword. Lord Bruce, see, cast about Versses' neck a strangling halter, that he mind his haste. How sayest thou, Versses? Wilt thou do this message?
Although no common post, yet for my king I will do England maugre England's might, and do mine errand boldly as becomes, albeit I honor English Edward's name, and hold his slavish contentment to scorn.
Then hie away as swift as swallow flies, and meet me on our roads, on England's ground. We there think of thy message and thy haste.
And there's a sounding of trumpets and exit Balliol and presumably everybody else, including Robert Bruce, by the sounds of it, standing in the background. It might be a different Bruce. Who knows? There are going to be lots of Bruces. I don't know the historicity of any of this. Anyway, we're going to move rapidly on into the next scene, scene 10. Enter King Edward, Longshanks, Edmund, Duke of Lancaster, Gloucester, Sussex, David, Crispol, booted from Northern.
Now have I leisure, lords, to bid you welcome into Wales. Welcome, sweet Edmund, to christen thy young nephew, and welcome, Cressingham, give me thy hand. But Sussex, what became of Mortimer? We have not seen the man this many a day.
Before your highness rid from hence to Northern, Sir Roger was a suitor to your grace touching fair Elinor, Llewellyn's love, and so belike denied with discontent, discontinues from your royal presence.
Why, Sussex, said we not for Elinor, so she would leave whom she had loved too long, she might have favour with my queen and me. But man, her mind above her fortune mounts, and that's a cause she fails in her accounts. But go with me, my lord of Lancaster, we will go see my beauteous lovely queen that hath enriched me with a goodly boy.
And King Edward, Edmund and Gloucester go into the Queen's chamber. The Queen's tent opens. She is discovered in her bed, attended by Mary, Duchess of Lancaster, Joan of Acon, her daughter, and the Queen dandles his young son.
Ladies, by your leave, how doth my Nell? Mine own, my love, my life, my heart, my dear, my dove, my queen, my wife.
Now art thou come, sweet Ned, welcome my joy. Thy Nell presents thee with a lovely boy. Kiss him and christen him after thine own name. Hey ho, whom do I see? My Lord of Lancaster, welcome heartily.
I thank your grace, sweet Nell. Well met withal.
Oh, brother Edmund, here is a kinsman of yours you must need. Be acquainted.
A goodly boy. God bless him. Give me your hand, sir. You are welcome into Wales.
Brother, There is a fist, I warrant you, held a mace as fast as ever did father or grandfather before him.
But tell it now, lapped in lily bands, how with my queen, my lovely boy, it stands, after thy journey in these childbed plains.
Sick, mine own Ned, thy knell for thy company, that lured her with thy lies all so far, to follow thee unwieldly in thy war. But I forgive thee, Ned, my life's delight, as so thy son thou see by bravely dight, and in Carnarvon christened royally. Sweet love, let him be lapped most curiously. He is thine own, as true as he is thine. Take order then that he be passing fine.
My lovely lady, let that care be less. For my young son, the country I will feast, and have him borne as bravely to the font as ever yet king's son to christening went. Lack thou no precious thing to comfort me, dearer than England's diadem to me.
Thanks, gentle lord. Nurse, rock the cradle. Thy, the king so near, and hear the boy to cry. Joan, take him up and sing a lullaby.
'Tis well, believe me, wench. God a mercy, Joan.
She learns, my lord, to lull a young one of her own.
Oops. Sorry, where am I? Oh, give me some drink.
Drink nectar, my sweet Nell, worthy for a seat in heaven with Jove to dwell.
Gramercy, Ned. Yeah, is that Queen Elinor still, or is that Lady Elinor?
No, it's Queen.
Definitely
It is
Queen Eleanor.
Thank you. Gramercy, Ned, now well remembered yet. I have a suit, sweet lord, but you must not deny it. Whereas my lord of Gloucester, good Clare, mine host, my guide, good Ned, let Joan of Acon be his bride. Assure yourself that they are thoroughly wooed.
God send the king be taken in the mood.
Then, niece, 'tis like that you shall have a husband. Come hither, Gloucester, hold, give her thy hand. Take her, sole daughter to the Queen of England.
Longshanks gives her to Gloucester.
For news he brought, Nell, of my young son, I promised him as much as I have done.
Gloucester and Joan hand in hand.
We humbly thank your majesty.
Much joy may then betide, a gallant bridegroom and a princely bride.
How say, sweet queen, what doth my lady crave? Tell me, what name shall this young Welshman have, born Prince of Wales by Cambria's full consent?
Edward the name, that doth me well content.
Then Edward of Carnarvon shall he be, and Prince of Wales, christened in royalty.
My lord, I think the queen would take a nap.
First take the child and hold him in your lap.
Farewell, good Joan, be careful of my queen. Sleep, Nell, the fairest swan mine eyes have seen.
And they close the tent. We're just going to pause there mid-scene because it is quite a long scene and lots of stuff's going on. Oh, that baby, it's got such a grip. It could definitely hold a scepter. There's children with their strong grips. Isn't that cute? We need to put in a stage cue for wah, wah, for the baby at one point. That's nice. I know it's a modern thought, but you know, if it was a modern pregnancy, Queen Eleanor would probably be going, "Give me a drink." It's been a while since I had any booze. You wouldn't have had that then, but you know, I just had to throw that in. And then some matchmaking, and of course, child's born in Wales. That might solve all our Welsh problems, mightn't it? Was that the plan all along?
Well, that's certainly why he dragged her to Carnarvon, heavily pregnant, yes.
So it looks like his Welsh problems might be over, but of course we just had the scene before with the Balliol King of the Scots. It's not looking so good, is it? Not looking so good.
I think one of the reasons why you get Joan and the Clare family marrying into the Clare family is that by the time this play was written, all of the English nobility was descended from that match.
Mm.
She was very, very fertile.
Yeah, excellent. Lynn, is that a wave or?
Yeah, I just had a question. I was under the impression in the first scene that Joan was Edmund and Edward's sister, and now it's like she's Edmund's daughter. What?
Yes, she's always been his daughter, but it got a little confused at times.
So she's Edmund's daughter?
No, she's Edward's daughter.
Oh, so she's the baby's older sister?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
so that just, biologically seems to be a little odd that, she's marriageable age and the queen is having another child.
She had 17.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, but even within the time frame of the logic of the play, it doesn't quite make sense because she's there at the very first scene.
When historically she would have been 2 years old.
Yeah, and has dialogue. Lois.
Oh, and we're told in the first scene, aren't we, that the Prince of Wales has died, Edward's son. Presumably, he was the heir to the throne. I mean, does that make sense?
I don't know.
Right at the beginning, where Edward's just come back from Palestine, and he's told, your father's dead. Your brother, your son. I mean, just about everybody seems to be dead.
Mm.
There's a Prince of Wales thing that, terminology-wise, that kind of might be what's obfuscating it here. Mm-hmm. So the title of Prince of Wales would have been actually held by a Welsh person, rather than being part of the whole heir to the crown situation. Mm. So the Prince of Wales dying and the heir to the crown dying are two different things. Mm. But also, my understanding is that's, as you said, Robert, the whole point why he dragged the Queen over to Wales, so that she can give birth in Wales, so that the heir to the crown can also be the Prince of Wales. And this is where it
undercuts Llewellyn's position, because that's what he's selling himself as, is a true Prince of Wales.
Yes, I found the line, the king your father and the prince your son and your brave uncle.
Yeah.
Me are dead. So he names him as a prince, but not as Prince of Wales.
No, that's right. I was just thinking of him as the heir, and so I used the term which doesn't become real until after this scene. In fact.
Yes. Okay, we're still halfway through the scene, so I think we should crack on and get some more evidence. But they close the tent on mother and child, and we are left with Duke Edmund, Lancaster, with Longshanks, Gloucester, and some chaps, basically. A lot of chaps. Maybe some cigar smoking, I don't know.
I had forgot to ask your majesty, how do you with the abbeys here in Wales?
Sorry, I got all excited and yes, I got it. As kings with rebels, mun, our right prevails. We have good Robin Hood and Little John, the Friar and the good Maid Marian. Why, Lluellen is a mighty man.
Trust me, my lord, methinks 'twere very good that some good fellows went and scoured the wood, and take in hand to cudgel Robin Hood. I think the Friar, for all his lusty looks, nor Robin rabble with their gleams and hooks, but would be quickly driven to the nooks.
I can assure your highness what I know. The false Lluellen will not run nor go or give an inch of ground, come man for man, nor that proud rebel called Little John, to him that wields the massiest sword of England.
Welshman, how wilt thou that we understand? But for Lluellen, David I deny, England hath men will make Lluellen fly, maugre his beard, and hide him in a hole, weary of England's tints and manly dole.
Gloucester, grow not so hot in England's right, that paints his honour out in every sight.
I guess, fair lords, ere many days be past, England shall give this Robin his breakfast. David, be secret friend, to that I say, and if I use thy skill, thou know'st the way where this proud Robin and his yeomen roam.
I do, my lord. and blindfold thither can I run.
David, enough. As I am a gentleman, I'll have one merry flirt with little John, and Robin Hood and his maid Marian. Be thou my counsel and my company, and thou mayst England's resolution see.
Enter Sussex before the 4 barons of Wales.
May it please your majesty, here are 4 good squires of the Cantreds, where they do dwell. Come in the name of the whole country to gratulate unto your highness all your good fortunes, and by me offer their most humble service to your young son, their prince, whom they most heartily beseech God to bless with long life and honour.
Well said, Sussex. I pray, bid them come near. Sir David, trust me, this is kindly done of your countrymen.
Villains, traitors to the ancient glory and renown of Cambria. Mayoress, Vaughan, thou there, and thou, proud lord of Anglesey.
Enter Sussex with the 4 barons of Wales, probably before that line actually. With the Mantle of Frieze, they all kneel down. Elizabeth, Mantle barons.
I'm a bit lost, Robert.
Rightio. What page is everyone on?
43.
43, somewhere around there.
I'm on 43, but I cannot see
43.
43.
43.
Or in some versions it could be 45.
Yeah, it will be orbiting there. Enter Sussex with the 4 barons of Wales.
And the Mantle of Frieze. That is very, very, very down market.
Is it now? Explain.
So.
Little barons, the whole country of Cambria, by us unworthy messengers, gratulates to your majesty the birth of your young son, Prince of Wales, and in this poor pressed express their most zealous duty and affection, which, with all humbleness, we present to your highness' sweet and sacred hands.
Gramercy, Baron, for your gifts and good wills. By this means my boy shall wear a mantle of the country's weaving to keep him warm, and live for England's honour and Cambria's good. I shall not need, I trust, courteously to invite you. I doubt not, lords, but you will be all in readiness to wait on your young prince and do him honour at his christening.
The whole country of Cambria, round about, all well horsed and attended on both men and women in their best array, are come down to do service of love and honour to our late-born prince, your majesty's son, and honey. The men and women of Snowdon especially have sent him great abundance of cattle and corn, enough by computation for your highness' household a whole month and more.
We thank them all, and will present our queen with these courtesies and presents bestowed on her young son, and greatly account you for our friends.
Exit the 4 barons. The tent opens again. Queen's tent opens, and the king and his brother, the Earl of Gloucester, enter.
Who talketh there?
A friend, madam.
Madam, it is the king.
Welcome, my lord. Hey ho, what have we there?
Madam, the country in all kindness and duty recommend their service and goodwill to your son, and in token of their pure goodwill present him by us with a mantle of frieze, richly lined to keep him warm.
A mantle of frieze? Fie, for God's sake, let me hear no more of it. And if you love me, is this the wisdom and kindness of the country? Now I commend me to them all. And if Wales have no more wit or manners than to clothe a king's son in frieze, I have a mantle in store for my boy. That shall I trow him, make him shine like the sun, and perfume the streets where he come.
In good time, madam. He is your own, lap him as you list. But I promise thee, Nell, I would not for £10,000 the country should take unkindness at thy words.
'Tis no marvel, sure. You have been royally received at their hands, no, Ned, but that thy Nell doth want of her will. Her boy should glisten like the summer's sun, in robes as rich as Jove when he triumphs. His pap should be a precious nectar made, his brood ambrosia no earthly woman's milk, sweet fire of cinnamon to open him by. The Graces on his cradle should attend, Venus should make his bed and wait on him, and Phoebe's daughter sing him still asleep. Thus would I have my boy used as divine, because he is King Edward's son and mine. But do you mean to make him up in frieze? For God's sake, lay it up charily, and perfume it against winter. It will make him a goodly warm Christmas coat.
Oh, sorry. Ah, Mun, my brother, dearer than my life, how this proud honour slays my heart with grief. Sweet Queen, how much I pity the effects this Spanish pride agrees not with England's prince. Mild is the mind where honour builds his bower, and yet is earthly honour but a flower. Fast to these looks are all my fancies tied, pleased with thy sweetness, angry with thy pride.
Fie, fie! Methinks I am not where I should be, or at the least I am not where I would be.
What wants my queen to perfect her content, to ask and have, the king will not repent.
Ah, thanks, gentle Edward. Lords, have at you then. Have at you, all long-bearded Englishmen. Have you at lords and ladies when I crave to give your English pride a Spanish brave.
What means my queen? Gloucester, this is a Spanish fit.
Ned, thou hast granted and canst not revoke it.
Sweet queen, say on, my word shall be my deed.
Then shall my words make many a bosom bleed. Read, Ned, thy queen's request, lapped up in rhyme, and say thy Nell had skill to choose her time.
And he reads the paper.
The pride of Englishmen's long hair is more than England's queen can bear. Woman's right breast, cut them off all, and let the great tree perish for the small.
What means my lovely Elinor by this?
Not be denied, for my request it is.
The rhyme is that men's beards and women's breasts be cut off, etc. Says the stage direction, just to clarify.
An old said saying, he that grants all is asked, is much harder than Hercules' task.
Were the king so mad as the queen is wood, here were an end of England's good.
My word is past. I am well agreed. Let men's beards melt and women's bosoms bleed. Call forth my barbers. Lords, we'll first begin.
Enter two barbers.
Come, sirrah, cut me close unto the chin, and round me even. Seest thou by a dish? Leave not a lock, my queen shall have her wish.
What, Ned? Those locks that ever pleased thy Nell? Where her desire, where her delight doth dwell, wilt thou deface that silver labyrinth? More orient than pimped hyacinth, sweet Ned, thy sacred person ought not droop, though my command may make other gallants stoop.
Madam, pardon me and pardon all. No justice but the great runs with the small. Tell me, good Gloucester, art thou not afeard?
No, my lord, but resolved to lose my beard.
Now, madam, if you propose to proceed, to make so many guiltless ladies bleed, here must the law begin, sweet Elinor, at thy breast, and stretch itself with violence to the rest, else princes ought no other do, fair lady, than they would be done unto.
What logic call you this? Doth Edward mock his love?
No, Nell, he doth us best in honour doth behove, and praise thee, gentle queen, let my prayers move. Leave these ungentle thoughts, put on a milder mind. Sweet looks not lofty, civil mood becomes a woman's kind. And live as being dead and buried in the ground. Thou mayst for affability and honour be renowned.
Nay, and you preach, I pray my lord be gone. The child will cry and trouble you anon.
And the nurse closeth the tent, presumably around the Queen, and just to note that the Lady Mayoress is in attendance. I don't know if this stage direction has ever mentioned that so far, but there she is.
O semel est imbuta recens, servavit odorem testagim. Proud incest, in the cradle of disdain, bred up in court of pride, brought up in Spain, dost thou not command him coyly from thy sight? That is the star, the glory of thy sight.
Oh, could I with the riches of my crown buy better thoughts for my renowned Nell? Thy mind, sweet queen, should be as beautiful as is thy face, as is thy features all, fraught with pure honour, treasure, and enriched with virtues and glory incomparable. Ladies about her majesty, see that the queen, your mother, know not so much, but at any hand our pleasure is that our young son be in this mantle born to his christening, for special reasons thereto moving from the church as best it please your woman's wit to devise. Yet, sweet Joan, see this faithfully performed, and hear you, daughter, look you be not last up when this day comes, lest Gloucester find another bride in your stead. David, go with me.
She riseth early, Joan, that beguileth thee of a Gloucester.
Leave him not, sweet niece. Woman can speak smooth for advantage.
We men, do you mean, good uncle? Will be the accent where it will women are women. I believe, I will believe you, for as great a matter as this comes to my lord.
Grammar, sweet lady, et habemus fidei mercedem contra.
And that ends that scene. Okay, there's nothing to discuss there. We can move on swiftly. No.
Yeah,
It all went a
Okay.
bit, why so serious there, didn't it?
I was going to say.
So Queen Elinor comes out, sees this bit of rag that the Welsh have given them, which is a political gesture which the king really has to hold on to because it's important for it to be presented and everybody see it as part of it. And she just goes, "Oh, he's not wearing that. I've got the best toddler togs for this child. It's going to be the best things you can have." And that escalates so fast. Is any logic given to why she wants to do the things she does? Have we found any?
I can only believe she is insane. No. There is a post. There is a post-puerperal insanity, apparently.
She's written it down in advance. It's not like she just suddenly comes out with this. It's already written down. Sascha first.
I'd agree, actually. It seems for her this is very planned. And as we've already kind of joked a little bit there, why so serious? But no, but it's not. You can joke about this all you like, but I think in a way, yeah, she is being a bitch. Let's face it, right here. I mean, she's certainly ungrateful. She is not happy where she is. She wants only the best for her son. She doesn't, she's only thinking about her. And I think a lot of this, especially as she's planned this whole thing with cutting off the beards and women's breasts. I mean, my God, She really does not. I would agree there is insanity there, but for her, living through it, I whether it's down to the hormones or not, I'm not sure. But, or even, you know, if we tap into the ambiguity that we picked up in the beginning of this session of whether she is like this anyway, I think, again, it's a very cleverly written scene in which we kind of think, hang on a minute, is she being deliberate here? Is she insane? Is it the hormones talking? You know, because there are, you know, or could it be a form of postnatal depression? Because there are some women that I know who do insane things during this time, and not so distant from a very distance from their children. But she's not that distance from her child. But she's almost using him in a way to mask, I think, what for her is going on internally. But for her, it's logical. She's reacting in extreme emotion here. And I think that's quite powerful, you know, to read, especially as you don't know where she's coming from at any given point.
It's interesting because she talks about cutting off the beard, and then the moment the king says, "Oh, I'll cut my beard off," she goes, "Oh no, not you."
Yeah.
And
she won't allow anybody else to touch her breast either. It's like,
well,
oh,
yeah, I mean,
me?
there's a logic from the king to say, I'm going to have my beard cut off first, because then he sets up the trap later on. I saw Lois's hand. I've got Stephen as well. So Lois first.
You say where she's coming from. She's coming from Spain. I mean, enough said. Spanish pride was notorious. I think that she's just exemplifying it.
Mm. We have, in another session, looked at a ballad on Queen Elinor, which touches on this same material, and so there might be a case of this is, you know, the story. This is the story. How do we dramatize it? And sometimes when you take a story that is just a relatively simple story, and you go, right, how the hell do we do it? And I don't know if this scene actually squares that circle. I think it just does it and hopes for the best, and that it's leaving us as producers to find out. But other thoughts may be available. Stephen first, then I see Lynn.
I was just going to make the point Lois has just made, but Spanish.
Mm. It's just a straightforward jingoistic calumny. Lynn.
Well, as crazy as her reaction is, the inciting event has been foreshadowed. Because in the very beginning, she talks about how, I want to put off the coronation until we can get some really fine togs for everybody. And she wants her baby to be in the most elaborate, beautiful christening clothes. So clothing is really important to her. Mm. Textiles are kind of her art form, her way of expressing herself. So this like rough woolen cloth thing that they've given her, that's a particular insult, because that's her fetish is clothing. So yeah, in a way, it's kind of been foreshadowed.
Mm. Yes, no, I think that's a good point. Yeah, she really is very in the image making business. I mean, the fact that Edward is trying to do also a political image, but it's deliberately appealing to people whose aesthetic is different. You know, to the Welsh lords who have just literally said, "We love you." And he kind of doesn't want to insult them because he's just got all this sorted out. Just briefly before we move on, I just want to just leap back a little bit to the short bit when they're talking about the rebellious Robin Hood people, and it's the fact that the moment you mention Robin Hood, everybody's verse just dissolves. You know, you suddenly lose several syllables a line. And it's the thing of how ironic are they be, you know, they know of these rebels, but what are the rebels now doing? They're just sort of playing around, they're cosplaying all the time. What sort of threat are they? And that sort of, it's quite a weird little section that doesn't quite feel like it matches the rest of the scene in a weird way. I see a hand from Alan. I see Alan first.
Yeah, I must admit, I found that a weird interpolation. I just wonder whether there was smoke blowing over from the woods with some herbs on it.
Oh, well, who knows? Lois?
Yeah, I mean, they obviously think this idea of playing Robin Hood is funny. What puzzled me, actually, since I was playing David, I was knocking myself out trying to figure out a way of conveying both the fact that he's trying to act as if he were on Edward's side, but at the same time his deep loyalty to Lluellen is coming out, and and he's given about 4 lines in which to convey all of this. It just seems to me that this is one of those characters that looks quite interesting at the beginning, and then he's given pretty well nothing with which to carry out this double agent role that he's playing.
Stephen?
Well, just to point about the verse, I wonder if it's to do with, blank verse being a kind of perceived as a new and modern innovation on stage, and that using rhyme and something a bit less kind of formally stressed actually signifies, merry world, medieval. It went very Skeltonic at one point. There was some 5 or 6 rhymes, one after another, and that might be the way that they signal just as clearly as clothes that we were in a merry world, and so the infectiousness of it might be something to do with that.
And it's the fact that we have these long scenes, but which have step changes within them, really quite big step changes from, here's a baby, Robin Hood, haha, and chop off things. It's a really interesting technique. Sadly, we do need to move on and read our final portion. We have what's effectively a little mini bridge scene before we go into the final scene we're going to read today. So mini bridge scene with the novice. Enter the novice and his company to give the queen music at her tent. So it could be argued this is the tail ender of the scene that we've just had, or it is just basically set up and turn over to the next. Go novice.
Beg your pardon. Come, fellows, cast yourselves even around in a string. A ring, I would say. Come merely on my word, for the Queen is most liberal. And if you will please her, well, she will pay you royally. So lawful to brave well thy British lustily, to solace our good Queen. God save her grace, and give our young prince a carpal in their kind. Come on, set your crowds, and beat your heads together, and behave you handsomely.
Yeah, that's the warm-up for the song I quite liked there. That worked really interestingly nicely. It's
God knows what they're singing.
Yes, sadly we don't know. But
or how the novice has come to be in this particular court.
Well, I wonder here with the novice, it's just perhaps just the actor playing the novice, and actually this isn't really a part. This is just someone coming on and warming the crowd up after a really depressing bit of business, potentially. I don't know. Anyway,
could almost be the voice, couldn't he?
It's that sort of thing. Warm up before the song happens, and then play continues somewhere else. So we're going to move on into the next sequence. Enter the Friar David alone.
I have a budget in my nose this gay morning, and now I will try how clerkly the friar can behave himself. 'Tis a common fashion to get gold, which stand, deliver your purses. Friar Davies will once in his days get money by wit. There is a rich farmer should pass this way to receive a round sum of money. If he come to me, the money is mine, and the law shall take no vantage. I will cut off the law, as the hangman would cut a man down when he hath shaken his heels half an hour under the gallows. Well, I must take some pains for this gold, and have at it.
The friar spreads the lappet of his gown and falls to dice. Enter a farmer.
'Tis an old said saying, I remember. I read it in Cater's Puerilis, that cantavit vacuus coram latrone viator. A man's purse penniless may sing before a thief. True, as I have not one penny, which makes me so pertly pass through these thickets. Indeed, I receive 100 marks. Here is how I shall pass again. Well, I resolved either to ride 20 miles about, or else to be so well accompanied I will not care for these rufflers.
Did ever man play with such uncircumcised hands? Seize ace to 11 and lose the chance.
Godspeed, good fellow. Why chafest thou so fast? There's nobody will win thy money from thee.
Sounds you offer me injury, sir. Soons you offer me injury, sir, to speak in my cast.
Friar undoubtedly is lunatic. I pray thee, good fellow, leave chafing, get some warm drink to comfort thy brains.
Alas, sir, I am not lunatic. 'Tis not so well, for I have lost my money, which is far worse. I have lost 5 gold nobles to St. Francis, and if I knew where to meet with his receiver, I would pay him presently.
Wouldst thou speak with St. Francis' receiver?
Oh, Lord, aye, sir, full gladly.
Why, man, I am St. Francis' receiver, if you had had anything with him.
Are you St. Francis' receiver? Jesus! Jesus, are you St. Francis' receiver? And how does all?
I am his receiver, and am now going to him. Abide Sir Thomas the Waterings to breakfast this morning to a calf's head and bacon.
Good Lord, sir, I beseech you to carry him these 5 nobles and tell him I deal honestly with him as if he were here present.
I will, of my word and honesty, Friar. And so, farewell.
Farewell, St. Francis' receiver, ever heartily. Well, now, the friar is out of cash. 5 nobles. God knows how he shall come into cash again, but I must do it again. There's 9 for your holiness, and 6 for me.
And enter Lluellen, Meredith, the potter, who's presumably still Mortimer, with their prisoners. Next time David speaks here is actually the friar, I think.
Yes.
On my hearts, bring forth your prisoners and let us see what stonefish is there in their closets. Friar, why chafest thou, man? Nobody will offer thee any foul play, I warrant thee.
Oh, good master, give me leave. My hand is in a little. I trust I shall recover my losses.
The friar is mad, but let him alone with his device. And now to you, my masters, Pedler, priest, and piper, throw down your budgets in the meanwhile, and when the friar is at leisure, he shall tell you what you shall trust to.
So should this be me, Rob?
I think it is. I
Yeah.
think it is. I genuinely don't know who this is supposed to be. It might be it could be. It's down as Pedler. I don't know if it is Potter or something else. Let's say for the moment it is Pedler until we get some additional data.
Yeah, last sir, I have 3 pence in this corner of my shoe.
Never a shoulder of mutton, piper, in your tabor. It's soft. Here comes company.
Enter Longshanks, the other David, and Farmer.
Alas, gentlemen, if you love yourselves, do not venture through this mountain. It is such a coil when Robin Hood and his rabble that every cross in my purse trembles for fear.
Honest man, as I said thee before, conduct us through this wood, and if thou beest robbed or have any violence offered thee, as I am a gentleman, I will repay it thee again.
How much money hast thou about thee?
Sir, 100 marks. I received it even now at Brecknock. But alas, we are undone. Yonder is Robin Hood and all the strong thieves in the mountain. I have no hope left but your honour's assurance.
Fear not, I will be my word's master.
Good master, and if you love the friar, give aim a while, you desire, and as you like of my device, so love him that holds the dice.
What, Friar, art thou still labouring so hard? Will you have anything more to St. Francis?
Good Lord, are you here, sweet St. Francis' receiver? How doth his holiness and all his good family?
Oh, good health, faith, wrath. Hast thou any noble?
You know, the dice are not partial, and St. Francis were 10 saints. They will favour him no more than they would favour the devil if he play at dice. In very truth, my friend, they have favoured the friar, and I have won 100 marks of St. Francis. Come, sir. I pray, sirrah, draw it over. I know, sirrah, he is a good man and never deceives none.
Draw it over? What meanest thou by that?
Why, in numeratis pecunis legem bone. Pay me my winnings.
What ass is this? Should I pay thee thy winnings?
Why art thou not, sirrah, St. Francis' receiver?
Indeed, I do receive for St. Francis.
Then I'll make you pay for St. Francis that's flat.
And there's some bustling on both sides.
Villain, you wrong the man. Hands off.
Masters, I beseech you, leave this brawling and give me leave to speak. So it is. I went to dice with St. Francis and lost 5 nobles. By good fortune, his cashier came by, received it of me in ready cash. I, being very desirous to try my fortune further, played still, and as the dice, not being bound prentice to him or any man, favoured me, I drew a hand and won 100 marks. Now, I refer it to your judgments, whether the friar is to seek his winnings.
Marry, Friar, the farmer must and shall pay thee honestly ere he pass.
Shall I, sir? Will you be content to pay half, as you promised me?
Aye, farmer, if you had been robbed of it. But if you be a gamester, I'll take no charge of you, aye.
Alas, I am undone.
Oh, Sir Friar, now you have gathered up your winnings, I pray you stand up and give the messengers their charge, that Robin Hood may receive his toll.
And shall, my lord, our thrice renowned Lluellen, Prince of Wales, and Robin Hood of the Great Mountain, doth will and command all passengers at the sight of Richard, servant unto me, Friar David, Uptuck, to lay down their weapons, and quietly to yield for custom towards the maintenance of his highness' wars, the use of all such gold, silver, money, and money worth, as the said messenger hath then about him. But if he conceal any part or parcel of the same, then shall he forfeit all that he possesseth at that present. And this sentence is irrevocable, confirmed by our Lord Lluellen, Prince of Wales, and Robin Hood of the Great Mountain.
So fill your budgets to Robin of the Mountain, but what art thou that disdainest to pay this custom, as if thou scornest the greatness of the Prince of Wales?
Faith, Robin, thou seemest to be a good fellow. Here's my bag. Half is mine and half is thine. But let's to it if thou darest, man for man, to try who shall have the whole.
Why, thou speakest as thou shouldst speak. My masters, on pain of my displeasure, depart the place and leave us two to ourselves. I must lop his Longshanks, for our heir to a pair of Longshanks.
They are fair marks, sir, and I must defend as I may. David, be gone. Hold here, my hearts. Long legs gives you this amongst you to spend blows with one another.
Now, Davy, days are almost come at end.
Mortimer, this sight is strange. Stay thou in some corner to see what will befall in this battle.
Now, Robin of the Wood, alias Robin Hood, be it known to your worship by these presents, that the Longshanks which you aim at have brought the King of England to these mountains, to use Lluellen, and to crack a blade with this man that supposeth himself Prince of Wales.
What, Sir King? Welcome to the Cambrians. What, foolish Edward, darest thou endanger thyself to travel these mountains? Art thou so foolish-hearted as to combat with the Prince of Wales?
What I dare thou seest. What I can perform thou shalt shortly know. I think thee a gentleman, and therefore hold no scorn to fight with thee.
No, Edward, I am as good a man as thyself.
That I shall try.
And they fight, and David takes his brother's part and Mortimer the king's.
Ah, Edward, how are thy senses confounded? What, Davy? Is it possible thou shouldst be false to England?
Edward, I am true to Wales, and so have been friends since my birth, and that shall the King of England know to his cost.
What, Potter? Did not I charge you to be gone with your fellows?
No traitor, no potter I, but Mortimer, the Earl of March, whose coming to these woods is to deceive thee of thy love, and reserved to save my sovereign's life.
Upon them, brother, let them not breathe.
The king hath Lluellen down, and David hath Mortimer down.
Villain, thou diest. God and my right hath prevailed.
Base Earl, now doth David triumph in thine overthrow. Aye, is me, Lluellen at the feet of Longshanks.
What, Mortimer, under the sword of such a traitor?
Brave king, run thy sword up to the hilts into the blood of the rebel.
O Mortimer, thy life is dearer to me than a millions of rebels.
Edward, relieve my brother, and Mortimer lives.
Aye, villain, thou knowst too well how dear I hold my Mortimer. Rise, man, and assure thee, the hate I bear thee is love in respect of the deadly hate I bear to that notorious rebel.
Away, his sight to me is like the sight of a cockatrice. Villain, I go to revenge me on thy treason, and to make thee pattern to the world of mountainous treason, falsehood, and ingratitude.
And exit the king and Mortimer.
Brother, it chafes, but hard was your hap to be overmastered by the coward.
No coward, David. His courage is like to the lion, and were it not that rule and sovereignty sets us ajar, I could love and honour the man for his valour.
But the plotter, oh, the villain will never out of my mind whilst I live, and I will lay to be revenged on his villainy.
Well, David, what will be shall be. Therefore, casting these matters out of our heads, David, thou art welcome to Canberra. Let us in and be merry after this cold cooling, and to prepare to strengthen ourselves against the last threatenings.
And they exit, and thus we run out of text for the day. It's another standoff, isn't it? It's another situation where I've got him and he's got, oh, what do we do? What do we do? Retreat, retreat. Following on from, the Friar's con tricks and the sort of extension of how the con works, and I really like some of that. It's a scene that does several things at the same time and builds to a completely different sort of ending, and all sorts going on. Thoughts about this scene before we go into our final thoughts, because we're very much into extra time. Lynn first.
Did anybody else see that coming with David? Am I the only one who was surprised by that?
Not really, no. Because we were here yesterday, so we sort of got a sense of what was going on with his betrayal.
Okay, so it was like, how many layers of double agent? I'm so confused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and
I think David's come home.
Mm.
He's finally on the side he's been on all along.
Okay, because my impression was he genuinely was going to turn on his brother and was on the side of Longshanks. No. And so this surprised me. So,
Lois.
Well, that's what I was saying really about the previous scene. It seems to me that the author has attempted to kind of build up to this by showing that David is furious at these Welsh lords who come and greet the Prince of Wales and are happy to call him that, and that therefore are betraying Lluellen. And he's only got really 2 speeches in which to indicate that. And then he goes to the woods, and then apparently is planning all along, I think, to turn on the king and possibly kill him there. But it's very few lines to indicate that.
Yes, it's that sense of the rebellion of Lluellen is getting smaller and smaller as the play goes on. It starts off quite large and important, and it gets to the point where they're just laughing at them because they're sort of pretending to be Robin Hood doing this guerrilla warfare, and who's it hurting? Nobody really. I really liked the Friar doing his the little announcement. Smith, make the announcement, which is really rather nice. are the thoughts? We're very much into extra time, so maybe thoughts overall for the play as I do final thoughts around the room. So Helen first, I think, because you've been with us throughout, plus the ballad we did in our separate sessions. So how are you feeling all these threads coming together as a play?
I'm much happier with the plot than I have been at any time up to this point. Hearing it read has resolved certain things that were in the vernacular of my native town doing me head in. I think it's very important to know that the farmer isn't a farmer.
Yes, we put it in it was only in the notes. We didn't say it out loud. So elaborate, please, Helen.
Yes, he's a tax farmer or a revenue farmer. His job is money. He's a money man. He's somebody's money man. Not obviously St. Francis's, but he's perfectly willing to take on that job if it'll give him a little extra cash.
Think HMRC and DWP.
Well, yes and no. I mean, he's not a royal farmer.
He's the bailiff.
He's a receiver. He's an account. He's somewhere between an accountant and a banker.
Alan, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting, and if we've actually broken it where you would break with acts, interesting that both acts have ended with Mortimer effectively having a very narrow escape by effectively being ransomed out.
Yes, Mortimer's not having a great journey, is he?
He's not. He's. I was beginning to feel I was being picked upon.
Oh, bless. Sascha, final thoughts?
Just checking I'm not muted. There we are. That's good. So, yeah, it's getting to be a very exciting play, and as I mentioned in the chat earlier, I think I've been enjoying playing Queen Elinor a bit too much, possibly. She is good fun to play, though, and I love the way that the story is developing. It's getting intriguing. It's getting to the nitty-gritty now, and I really am looking forward to tomorrow.
Excellent. Dan, having joined us at sort of the midpoint, thoughts, feelings, questions?
Many questions. Joining in, I feel a little bit lost in it. Seems like a fun play, but I don't feel like I have enough to really go on to make any kind of assessment with which I feel comfortable. So I'm happy to listen to whatever anyone else has to say, and I'll probably have more to say tomorrow.
Excellent. Lynn, similarly joining us midway through, and how are you finding it so far?
I have found it a little difficult to kind of parse out what the main plot is. I mean, it took me till almost now to figure out, okay, the political plot of who is going to be Prince of Wales that's sort of the spine. The A plot and all this other stuff is entertainment. And so I think that if you were to stage this, that's something to keep in mind, that in order to keep the audience focused on that central story, you'd have to do something with staging or pacing or costuming or something like that to make it clear that these things are little comic interludes, but the political plot is the main thread.
Yeah, it's really interesting that within that, if we can call that the central plot, that's the plot that also has the most digressions within it, and those little comic asides are part or wrapped up in that plot, and then we have the Queen Elinor plot. So yeah, there is a sense that it is a bit diffuse, and the question of precise what kind of focus you give to the play, and whether it wants to go with that level of focus or not, or whether the diffuse nature is sort of how it should be. It's a really interesting question about how you manage the material, because it's not a short play as well. So there is a question of, if you're going to start making cuts, where do they start to live? What do you start doing to it in a dramaturgical way. Alexandra, similarly, late in the game, how are you feeling?
Of a similar opinion. Yes, I'm partly with Daniel on this, where I sort of feel as though I'm insufficiently informed to have an opinion yet. But I also feel like, from a structural standpoint, which is what you were just talking about, Lynn and Robert, this diffuse. I'm quite interested in not the diffuseness, but the spread out nature of the way in which this story seems to be being told. Which I think I will have to read the whole thing and before I have a complete kind of perspective on it. But it could be something that lends itself to really interesting staging and to a very sort of roundly constructed world or something of that nature. Or it could be something that ends up falling flat and, as an audience, us not understanding what the hell is going on, which is my current state.
I think there's something really interesting about the way that the script is presenting this play as this big, expansive thing where I can't think of many stages that would fit what it's telling us to do. Mm. So at the moment, I'm thinking it's feeling very like a mini-series to me at the moment. It feels like you could watch this episode by episode, but doing it all in one chunk feels really exhausting. But we can use other mediums. Stephen, similarly, coming in on day 2, how your feelings and thoughts?
Yeah, pretty confused. But I like the world building. Kind of people have said this, I suppose. I'm really interested in the way in which kind of disguise and adopted identities are working, and particularly the interaction between a kind of the double agent and this kind of strange world of spying, and the plebeian Robin Hood tradition, which is it's another version of that, but it's kind of it has a set of different inferences, I think. So I'm interested in those two things being in the same plot, because it's an identity. Robin Hood's an identity you adopt, if you like, and it's a kind of but it has a different sort of valence than I am just not saying which side I'm on, So I think it's interesting that it tries to create a world where both of those things are happening at once.
Now, Alexandra, follow up briefly.
Yes, I just wanted to add something to my point, because Stephen's just reminded me of it. There is also structurally, there is this thing that we've commented on already, where there are these like enormous and very sudden changes. Right? You've got, it's hilarious, it's adorable, it's horrific, all within the same scene. And again, I think that would be used wisely, or if it turns out that this is kind of wisely constructed, that would very much contribute, Stephen, to what you were just talking about with the world building and the engagement. I feel like as an audience, we could get engaged in a whole variety of ways by our attention constantly having to shift.
Elizabeth, you've been with us throughout, so final thoughts from you. Are you confused?
I really loved the play, actually. Yesterday was left up in the air a bit about whether I was on the fence. But for today, I really, really enjoyed it. I think it manages to keep the audience engaged throughout. The little digressions that you talked about, Robert, I think are quite integral to keeping the audience watching, because the A plot can be a bit of a grind. So these little digressions into left and right, and who are some of the characters, help us to stay focused on the narrative. I really enjoyed it, and I'm actually looking forward to tomorrow as well.
Excellent. Right, who else have I got left? Sarah, I've final thoughts. You've also been here throughout, so final thought from you?
I love the diffuseness of it. It feels very modern to me. We're kind of used to plays with an A plot and a B plot. And I mean, just for example, the way Lluellen starts off in the A plot, and then kind of, you could say, dwindles into the B plot. But is it dwindling, or is it actually expanding it? You were talking about a mini series, and I think that's a really good analogy. I was thinking initially of Dickens, because there are just, you've got this huge cast of characters who are all interacting with each other slightly, these worlds, because that's what real life is, real worlds, in the real world, like, different worlds collide. And I think it's really skillfully done. I mean, you do have to keep your eye on what's happening. But I actually, I'm not having any problems following it. I'm finding it really fascinating. And then coming right up to modern day, I'm thinking about Coronation Street, actually. I'm thinking about this as like a long-running soap almost, where you've got all these different plots, and you've got the drama and the tragedy, and then you've got, like, Norris in the corner shop or whatever, and you've got all this different stuff. And the other thing that reminds me of Coronation Street slightly is the character development. I am loving the way the characters are developing. I take back what I said about Longshanks yesterday. He is developing into a really interesting character. Yes, Helen, yeah. He is, and I find that those scenes with him and Elinor, the way they're interacting, I'm finding those fascinating. And I almost want that to be a play in itself, which, is what a good soap opera miniseries does to you. It's like it gets you hooked into all these different stories and just keeps you, pulls you along. So yeah, I think it's really skillfully written, and quite modern for the, I don't know if there are, what else is happening, but I just think it's very, it foreshadows a lot of what's to come later on in terms of, world building.
Especially as we consider history plays as sort of interacting with other history plays. The soap never ends, or it does when you run out of kings. So, Lois, final thoughts?
Well, I love Robin Hood anyway. It's one of my big interests. So, of course, I love this play and the sheer variety of it. It makes me think more of a Christmas pantomime, actually, because Robin Hood is often dragged into other people's stories in pantomime, like Robin Hood and the Babes in the Wood, for instance. And I think he's not really dragged into this, because the minute the Friar appears, I think we're actually in the Robin Hood world, even though it's some time before everybody else goes into it. But I think friars just do belong in the pre-Reformation world of jolly friars who are also wenching friars and so on. So I think the main plot has potentially some quite interesting characters who can be played sort of psychologically, and then for the rest of it, it's more almost for the sake of variety. I think songs and fights and moving between these worlds. I'm also fascinated by the state of the text, I must admit, and particularly that weird stage direction that tells you the contents of the paper that we've already heard read. I mean, this is one of those things that just makes you want to picture the bundle of papers that went to the printer, and whether this was a kind of cue for the actor in case they lost the piece of paper that he was supposed to be reading. I just can't make out what else it's there for.
Right. Well, we've got one more session to go with considerably less text, thankfully, so we won't be rushing quite so much, and we might be able to pick apart some of the other earlier thoughts that we've already had. All that remains is for me to thank everybody for their services today, and before we go into admin, goodbye.
Bye-bye.